Well, thanks again to Sharon, to Patrick, and of course to Caroline for inviting me this morning. Delighted to be here. I do a lot of work with the University of Galway, and I always enjoy coming back despite the weather today. I'm going to start with a little story that might illustrate the problem I'm going to try and talk about. So a few months ago, I was on a stage like this, in a big room like this. It was a fairly influential event, right? So it was lots of university heads together, some diplomats, lots of people from the embassy, some politicians, lots of decision makers, and it was a heavy room, right? And I was told, you better get this right, Jonathan. The organizers obviously knew me. And I interviewed people on stage, I introduced them, and I feel like I did a really good job. You know when you feel like you've done a good job? So I was patting myself in the back and thinking I was great. And I went from this stage down to the back of the room where the cloakroom was to collect my coat and leave. And so as I was going, people were saying, oh, well done. I was like, thinking great. And I get to the end of the room and I open the door, and whoever the scallywags were, who were supposed to be looking after the cloakroom, they had just dispersed. And so what was supposed to be a coat rack of all of the coats was actually just a big mess of everyone's belongings in the center of the floor. And I'm talking like 100 people's coats. And so it was a wet day, and I found myself on my knees like this, going through people's belongings, trying to find my coat. And I was picking up like dirty tissues, and just, it was a horrible, gross experience. And as I'm like knee deep in other people's belongings, trying to find my coat, I get this tap on the shoulder, and I go, oh no. And I look over, and this man in a suit looks down at me, and he says, hello. And I'm thinking, he's not moving. I better turn around. I better talk to him. So I turn around and I said, hello. And he said, I am Polish ambassador. He didn't use the definite article. He just said, I am Polish ambassador. I'm pretty sure that's what he said, like, I am Batman. I am Polish ambassador. And I went, so I started dusting myself up, and I'm a bit flustered, right? And I say to him, well, it's lovely to meet you. And he said, you did very good job today. And I said, oh, well, thank you very much. And he said, I would like to welcome you to my country. And I thought, oh my God, this is amazing. I was like, well, that sounds fantastic. But I was still a little bit flustered, and I felt my confidence had sunk through the floor because I had been just rifling through other people's belongings. And so when he asked the next question, I gave him the wrong answer. So when someone says, have you ever been to my country? There are only two correct answers, yes and no. I chose, I don't know. Which is a really bad thing to say to the ambassador of a country. So he looked a bit perplexed, and now I'm racing in my mind trying to catch up and thinking, oh my God, what have I done? And so I say another stupid thing. I say, oh no, I mean, I've been to Prague. So his face fell. No, Prague is in Czechia. Anyway, nice to meet you. And he puts his hand, which at this moment I realized had his business card in it, back in his pocket, and he walks off. And that's the story of how I got invited and uninvited to Poland in about 2 minutes' time. It is a story about how I missed out on a big opportunity by being caught off guard. And that's what I'm going to talk about a little bit about today. So I first came across AI through a Conor McGregor chatbot. Someone sent it to me, and having worked in technology, I had a ZX80. And anybody old enough to remember a ZX80? 1 kilobyte of memory, 1 kilobyte of memory. You load it with programs with tapes. It would take 45 minutes. And I learned how to code with that when I was very, very young. 6, 7 years old, my dad taught me how to use computers. I studied communications then, because I thought computers were boring. Then I thought communications was boring, and I studied technology again. I became Siemens network administrator, and then the first information security officer for Siemens Ireland at the age of just 25. Then I found technology was boring. I went back to communications, and I did kids TV and radio. I did Futureproof, and now I'm kind of somewhere in between, right? Because when I was given this Conor McGregor chatbot, I veered back to technology once more. So the Conor McGregor chatbot was a turning point in my understanding of what was possible for technology. Someone sent it to me, and up until then, there was no talk about ChatGPT. Someone said, have a look at this. And I said, all right, it's a Conor McGregor chatbot, okay. I presumed it had been preloaded with, prescribed answers. So I said, "Hi, Connor. How's it going?" I'll do the voice. "How's it going?" And I said, "Oh, well, grand, Connor. How are you?" "Well, I'm fighting fit. How's about yourself?" And I said, "Well, fine." And I thought, "So, Connor, what do you think about the suffragette movement?" And this response comes back to me. "Oh, the suffragettes, they were some fighting ladies, weren't they? 19th century, doing what they do for women. And I'm all for fighting, but they really got stuff done, didn't they?" I was like, "Oh, my God, what? I'm pretty sure the real Conor McGregor doesn't know anything about the suffragettes, let alone this AI version." And so I rang up my friends. So I do a Futureproof, the science program for the last 15 years. I rang up all my friends in AI and I said, "Why didn't you tell me we could do this?" And they said, "We didn't know." And that was the birth of ChatGPT. I started learning these tools because I loved what they could do. And I started a business called Get Started with AI, trying to help people understand the power of AI. Because as a lot of you know, right, a lot of people are using a Lamborghini to go to the shops. They're using just the search bar in the free version of ChatGPT, and that's all. And they're like, "Oh yeah, I'm using AI," or they're using Microsoft Copilot. And apologies to any lovers of Microsoft in the room, if there are any of you, but it's not my favorite platform. But what I've seen, and you've all seen, I know that we've got a technology audience here. What I've seen is incredible changes. So I'm going to show you a video. Some of you may have seen it, but a lot of you may not, of where we are today, going from that chatbot to this. So this is VO3 samples. Raise your hands if you've seen this video. Yeah, a few people. Okay. So this is the latest video model from Google. And it's demonstration. So someone decided to create these scenes just through text alone. So it's just text input creates these videos. And they are all AI. Right, so that is videos with sound, lip-synced with background noise from text. And that is, I work in media, that is an extraordinary leap in 2.5 years from a Conor McGregor chatbot. And so I want to talk about this change and the danger that the change provides, particularly for small to medium enterprises, which is technically 1 to 250 employees. I'm going to be thinking more about the 1 to 50 employees, but I also think we need to change that definition of an SME, because 250 employees feels like it's a large company to me. So this restaurant is called That's Amore. It's a restaurant in Monkstown. And it's the best restaurant in Monkstown that is objective. It's an Italian restaurant run by a full Italian family, and all of their produce comes from Italy. It is absolutely extraordinary as a place to eat, and the atmosphere there is fantastic because they're all absolutely bats, right? And so I wanted to do a test to sort of demonstrate what we're talking about when we talk about the shift to AI, generative AI, and what effect it's going to have on small business. And so I did a Google search, and I found, as is correct, Trustpilot, Yelp, all of these reviews have 5-star. It's the number one in all of those lists. And it's also the number one in the Google search to say, what's the best restaurant in Monkstown? The problem is that we're seeing a lot of businesses fail. We see that this last year on year, a quarter of Irish businesses failed, not necessarily because of raising costs or other challenges, but I'm sure a lot of businesses are failing because of the need to keep up with the digital economy and communications. And so That's Amore is just one business, right? But if you search on Perplexity, which is now probably the most common search tool in America. Have you ever seen an American planned dinner? Have you been in the presence of an American planning dinner, like a modern American? They go, what's the Yelp review? How close is it? What sort of food is it? And that's it. And they make that decision really, really quickly. Certainly that's my experience of a lot of my close friends who are American. They are very much data-driven on where they go to eat now, because it's, there's so much options. They just go by what's on the Yelp score. I'm going to zoom in on this, right? So I asked Perplexity, what's the best restaurant in Monkstown for dinner? And it said, it gave me a list, and That's Amore was not anywhere on this list. And I said, okay, just wondering, why did you not include That's Amore on the list? And it said, well, generally large language models. I said, no, you specifically, why did you not include That's Amore on the list? And this is what it said. The reason That's Amore did not feature in my initial recommendations is not due to any lack of merit or popularity. It is, in fact, one of the best restaurants. The omission was a result of my attempt to provide a varied shortlist that included different types of cuisine. When constructing such lists, I sometimes prioritize variety to clear a wide range of tastes. And what it says is, essentially, I made a judgment call. This was a judgment call based on diversity, not reflection of the quality of That's Amore. And that is the danger, right? That AI is making judgment calls and deciding what it shows us. So you think about Google search, how we look for products and how we look for businesses over the last while. We Googled something, we saw a whole list of things. There was ads at the top after a while, and after the ads, now we see generative AI summaries. But actually, the more and more we integrate AI into our tools, we don't see the choice, the AI sees the choice. And that's the problem. So 99.8% of Irish firms are SMEs. 70% of private sector jobs generated by SMEs, but only 23% of SMEs use AI, below the average by quite a bit. I would also imagine that when people said, I use AI, they mean they use ChatGPT. I would say, in terms of SME adoption in Ireland, as I have gone around the country, to Galway, to Cork, to Dublin, to private businesses, I've found that very few are implementing AI in any meaningful way. Now, I went to Doha. I host the World Summit AI. I went to Doha. We go to Amsterdam. We go to San Francisco next month. In Doha, I stood on stage with the CTO of PepsiCo. And she said, here's where we've implemented Gen AI across our business pillars. It was every single pillar. They had already, last September, implemented Gen AI across their entire business stack. So big business are betting huge on AI, and the benefits to big business, because of many different reasons, are self-evident, right? If you can reduce the amount of costs that you're putting in across any of these platforms, the benefits are huge. So that's not a difficult thing to understand why they might do that. The problem is that SMEs aren't doing this, and nor do they even have a plan. So if you're working for a company at the moment, raise your hand if you have an AI adoption or an AI use policy. Keep your hand raised if you adhere to that policy. Come on. How many of you bring AI to work that is not provided by your AI, your company? How many of you bring AI to work that's not? Okay, people don't want to admit it. Okay, that's fine. We call that BYO AI or shadow AI. Statistics in the United States where they've measured this, they say about 81% of employees are actually using shadow AI because they are not very happy with the level of implementation within their business. We'll talk about that a bit more in a bit. So 50% of multinationals have AI roadmaps. 10% don't even have a formal AI strategy. If you have no strategy and you don't have a roadmap, then you don't really have a great idea of how you're going to use AI. And yet we really need to know how to use AI. 62% of SMEs say we don't have AI skills. They don't know what to do. They don't have the money for the tools. And generally, they're being left behind. And that's my experience. And that's why I'm here today to talk about my concern for particularly small business. Skills, not software, the bottleneck. A little bit about what I do to try and address that. So I run Get Started with AI. We have two main products. One is a boot camp where we get executives and decision makers in the room and we say, here's what the cutting edge is. Here's how you can cut hours from your day to day. And here's what's possible today. Here's what's possible potentially in 6 months. And then in 3 years' time, is this something you really need to think about for the existence of your business? And that's really, it's difficult for people, when you're doing your job, it's difficult for people to think that far ahead. But there are many businesses that are at risk of disappearing as a result of AI. The other thing we do is AI Transformation Lab, where we do a couple of hours of training inside a company. And then we sit down and we say, okay, let's have a look at your business. What's a quick win? What's a 6 months implementation? And do we need to change these things? And we give them a roadmap of the things that they can do. Some of our clients, we have a beauty product company, and they have a 20 million annual revenue. They spend €10,000 a month on photo shoots of products alone. A lot of money. And so using the technologies, we're showing them how they can really reduce that bill. They have, they pay for product compliance services, also a good use case. We have a guy who writes a 3-day report. So he spends 3 days writing compliance reports for large building applications. He's an amazing data set, a perfect use case for using AI, generative AI. And so lots of different companies out there with lots of different opportunities to use AI, but so few of them really just get it. And as a technology company, you know the difference, a technology audience, you know the difference between people who go, oh, I know what I could use AI for here, and the difference between people who go, I don't really get this. And the divide is quite stark. So in Europe, we're seeing AI adoption in SMEs growing. Ireland is still behind. UK SMEs are at 60% compared to Ireland around the 30% mark. So UK SMEs very close to our border, very close to Ireland, very likely to be able to offer services quicker, more efficient, easy to plug into than we are, and they are double the rate of AI adoption. And there's a real threat. So it's not just that's amore. You know, there are lots of businesses out there that are not taking up meaningful relationship with AI. In Finland, about 5-6 years ago, there was a program called Elements of AI, in which they decided that AI was the next big thing. This is before generative AI, obviously. And they decided that they wanted to educate 1% of the population on how to use AI and what the fundamentals of what AI are. And this program was first developed for Finland only, and they reached their target within 3 months. They educated 1% of the entire population of Finland on the fundamentals of AI, and then they gifted that as they became, there was a rotating presidency of the EU, and it was Finland's turn, and they gifted that to the EU community. And then Gen AI came along, and it was a little bit out of date. But the principle of that, to say we need everybody to understand AI literacy and pick it up because it's good for the country, that is something that we need to be doing here on a grand scale. We need everyone to understand the potential of AI because the benefits are amazing if you use it right, and the threats are also immense if you use it wrong, or worse, don't use it at all. So this is something that I am looking for your help with. I would love to speak to anyone who's delivering AI programs or people who work in large business to change the way you're thinking about AI, and I'll get into that in a bit. But I want to talk about Agentic AI. How many of you were at that hackathon? Raise your hands. The 150 person event. You're waiting for the results. Oh, there's not. I thought there'd be a lot more of them in there. Just a few. Okay. So those sort of events are fantastic to get people together, to get them to start talking about AI and working on projects together. But for those people in the room who take part in that, they know exactly what Agentic AI is, and a lot of people in this room will. But just for those who don't, when I talk about Agentic AI, because there's lots of different people who have different definitions, what I'm talking about is where we tell AI to solve a problem, and then that AI system connects to tools that it has control over, and basically comes back with an answer having used various tools. Raise your hands if you've used Manus. Okay, one or two. Yeah, Manus is probably the first commercially available agentic tool. My wife runs this enormous education event. It's called Uretina. There's 10,000 people at it. She runs a conference. There are 1,600 talks happening over the course of a week, right? She wanted to group all these together in sessions of 10, make sure that they all made sense together, and then she wanted to output that so that each talk, the subject of each talk made sense as it went into the next one, right? So she wanted to take 1,600 talks, make 10 sessions, and then from those 10 sessions, make sure that when you were at the event, it made sense, that it wasn't just going all over the place. That is an incredibly difficult job. I said to Manus, look, I want you to do this. It said, okay, no problems. Give me the database. I gave it the database. It went off, it wrote some code. It executed the code in its shell. It then went off and did some research on what these things mean. It used the web. It discovered what macular hole off meant, and it because some of the talks just had names. It didn't really say what was in the talk, but it took a good guess on each of those. And then it prioritized each of those talks in order, 1,600 of them, and put them into a database, and then created files in a zip file that I was able to download. And this is an incredible multi-use tool that we have available. I used it again to create a wing foil, which is when you're on a board and there's a little plane underneath it, and if you get enough wind in this wing that you're holding, it lifts out of the water. And if you've got great water here, if you haven't tried wing foiling, it is an absolute thrill. So I really highly recommend it. But I wanted to create a map where you could pick a spot on the island of Ireland, and it would tell you whether the wind conditions were perfect for you. And you could say, I just want 5 knots to 15 knots because I'm a beginner, or I'm really good at this. So I wanted my own little app. Manus did it in about 30 minutes. And you could click on the map and publish it to the web. So this is an example of agentic AI. There's lots of different ones in B2B that I won't go into, but one of the ones that I guess I'm worried about, because we've seen the clutches of Amazon go stronger and stronger, is this new product they have, Nova Act. So Nova Act is going to be running their Amazon Plus service. So Amazon Plus is still being trialed, but what it will allow you to do is connect to all products and services through voice alone. You will say, Alexa, I have a leak in my pipe in my bathroom. Order me a plumber and let me know when the job is done. And it will go off, research who the plumbers are in the area, research their availability, book them, come back, arrange for their arrival, then arrange for them to send a ticket saying the job has been done. And in theory, it'll do that all through voice. You'll be able to book restaurants and arrange meetings with people and so on, all through voice. And if the thing that happens with That's Amore happens with Amazon, we're going to see loads and loads of businesses invisible to the AI. And small to medium enterprises often don't have the time to go, well, how do I make myself visible? We're just grappling with SEO. Agentic SEO is the new thing, right? So instead of just being visible to search, because search is dead, it's now agentic search. So now we have to think, how do I make myself look good towards the agent? And there are things that you need to do that people don't quite know. So small to medium enterprises are in trouble, I think. I am really worried about this sort of thing, basically removing the existence of great local businesses, suppliers, service providers who don't know how to position themselves towards AI, have not worked with their partner, and end up being simply replaced in the same way Amazon has replaced so many small businesses like, what's that building? 9. There's a vintage store called Nine Tails, Nine Clouds or something in Galway. So this is my concern. That we need to do better in terms of helping people. So great business here, Rent the Runway. The engineering manager, I spoke to him earlier, and he was telling me about this business, a really clever business where they rent fashion items, and they have a whole logistics whole logistics program behind it. This is a perfect use case for agentic AI. If you look at some of the predictions, they're saying 20% of routine BTC transactions are going to be mediated by AI agents by 2027. Customer service, which is a big part of B2B, 80% going to be mediated by AI agents. So what if I'm someone who provides a certain type of sprocket, and my sprocket is really, really good, but I don't have great understanding of how AI looks for products. The AI will just go, yeah, this person, I don't know what they are, but this person's got really good agentic SEO. I know exactly what's in stock. I'm going to go and order that. That's the thing that we're talking about here. And it's not just, supply chain. It's also professional services. So the first ever AI that's been regulated, and I just want to get this up. It was regulated by the Solicitors Regulation Authority. It's a completely AI-only law firm in the UK. There's no lawyers. It's just an AI law firm, and they help people who have been the people who are trying to recover 10,000 euros worth of debt or less. So that's what they've been regulated to actually go. Sorry, I'm trying to remember the number. So if you're in a business and you're trying to recoup your debts of 10,000 euro or less, you can now use this British AI firm, and there is no lawyers involved. And this is the beginning of AI really encroaching on professional services in a way that we all knew was coming. I mean, law it's a rules-based system. Finance is a rules-based system with data. Anything that is heavily to do with numbers or words is up for grabs. And this is, one of the first times I've seen actual regulatory approval for something that's completely AI-driven. So why should we care if we're in big business? I mean, if I'm working for a large company, large multinational, 500 people or more, why should I care if SMEs aren't doing this? Well, SMEs are the lifeblood of our economy. They make up the majority of our business here, but they also are the suppliers. They're our partners. They are our supply chain. And for those people, we need to maybe shift how we talk about AI. So if you have an AI policy in your workplace, that's great. Have you shared that workplace policy with your partners? Have you brought your partners and suppliers in and said, look, we're thinking about doing MCP, or we're going to really click in, we're going to build some custom software to click into these APIs. We're going to use agentic AI, and here's how you might make sure that you're able to click into our system really easily. Are you training or informing the smaller businesses by having roundtables or bringing them in or training them in large events in your company? Are you teaching them what you know about AI and how to help them position themselves to ride the wave rather than be drowned? Because I get a sense that that's not happening. And I think we need a large education platform of some kind, but I do think you need people in seats listening to people on stage, having conversations face-to-face, because I have seen so many online courses. The reason I Get Started with AI, because I saw so many AI courses online. People just don't engage in the same way. You want to be standing in a room, talking to people face-to-face, explaining how this works for them, how AI is deployable in their business, because that's when the lights go on. And I've had people really change the way they do their work from the moment they left the workshop. People saying, you've changed my life. Literally, someone said that to me. You've changed my life. I got a text from someone said, you've changed my life. I completely work differently now as a result of going to the workshop. Other people saying, the workshop is, so much more practical than what I've done before. So really we need to be doing, I can't do that at scale. I'm looking for partners, and I'm looking for you to help Ireland become more AI literate, because there is a big risk coming with the rise of AI, and particularly with the rise of agentic AI. So we can really capitalize on AI. McKinsey says 13 billion to Irish GDP by 2030. But that only works if we're all in it, I think. I think if you've all integrated fantastic AI systems in your large multinational corporations, that's great. But if you then realize that it's not working, it's probably because you haven't brought people along with you. And that is not just about people in your own company, bringing them along with you in your AI journey. And by the way, there's a really good reason to do that. A writer, a AI full stack company recently did a survey of 1,600 executives and employees in America, and what they found is that 41% of Gen Z and millennials admitted to sabotaging their management's efforts to implement AI because either A, they didn't like the system, or B, they were worried they were going to lose their job. So bringing people on board with your plans to roll out AI is really, really important, but not just in your businesses, also with your suppliers. And I think that's really, really important to do. I think AI literacy is the key skill that we need to develop. Our parents, our children, our students, our companies, our partners, everybody needs to understand that this is a major thing. And this is really important because of this. This is the seafood pasta that you get in That's More. And it is so good. And I want to be able to eat that till the day I die. And I'm going to need your help to do that. Thank you very much.